Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a last-minute guide for the Dark Round Shadow Challenge Quest. It's an absolute bastard, and odds are a bunch of you have already opted to just seal through it if you haven't already. But even if you go in assuming you're going to use command spells, you still need a strategy. What I'm going to do is give you a strong shot at getting deep into the fight, at which point you can decide whether you will or won't use seals. You got a couple of hours left, so, make them count. How this fight works is that if there are 2 or more knights on the field, they'll attempt one of 3 formations that, if not disrupted, gives them buffs that usually end the run. While their formation is up, the knights all get high damage and debuff resistance. One of them also taunts up, restricting your actions. That said, they aren't invincible, and a strong enough attacker can potentially finish off a knight at extremely low health if they lead the formation. Of the various formations, Gareth's is by far the most dangerous. If you can't break it immediately, the enemy knights gain offensive buffs and full charge. Given that Tristan has Sure Hit and Gareth has Invuln Pierce, it's pretty much an instant loss. Another bit of nastiness is that the knights can taunt your servants while in formation, so you can't necessarily rely on your own taunts to fend them off on turns where you fail to break it. Tristan's is also quite bad. He gives the knights Invuln Pierce and lets them bypass defense buffs. If this goes off during an NP turn, you're in for a bad time. The other knights get attack and crit buffs on a successful formation. Unlike the others, these aren't instant run enders. If you have hard mitigation, you can feasibly survive this. That said, you don't want any formations to calcify because every turn that damage reduction buff stays is one that you aren't dealing damage. And in most situations, you'll find the DPS requirements for this fight are quite tight. It's also worth noting that if you fail to break a formation, they just do it again the next turn, so you can't wait it out. So how do you break these formations? Every time a formation is chosen, it comes with a debuff. If you meet the condition listed, you stop it and the knights lose their protection, giving you a turn to damage them before they try again. There are 5 potential conditions. 3 of these are related to the standard card types. Hit them with an Arts, Buster, or Quick card. Another is to use an offensive Noble Phantasm, and the last one is to crit. Once you start breaking bars, enemies can get 2 conditions, so as you might imagine, things can get quite complicated. These conditions are the big RNG hellscape that makes Dark Round Shadow one of the worst challenge quests in Fate Grand Order. First of all, you can lose on turn 0. If the knights get the crit condition before you physically had the chance to build stars, you get dumpstered, straight up. You need a star effect in this situation, but consider this. You shouldn't run Stardom CEs because you can't do damage on turn 1 anyway. That and you could have been running a Bestia del Sol instead. You could run a Stardom Servant, but this requirement narrows down your pool of viable attackers too much for comfort. So what, do you run Amadeus? That's another constraint on your team building. You might think to run Anniversary Blonde, but having a Guts as your last line of defense against a Gawain NP is yet another rough spot. So my conclusion is that if you have to crit on turn 1, just reset and try a new run. Trying to tough through it just distorts your decision making too much. Kinda bad design, isn't it? The NP condition is also a huge blow to your prospects. You have to NP to avoid the knights getting buffed, but odds are you're only running a single real attacker. Unless you can NP again next turn, you miss your damage window and end up at square 1, just with less health. Dual attacker setups are hypothetically possible, but you're almost certainly in the position of fending off multiple NPs. Without a second support, you may find that very difficult or frustratingly reliant on target RNG. If you get this super early, just consider resetting. The card type conditions are more reasonable, but they're yet another layer of RNG that you can get screwed by. My opinion is that the Mage's Mystic Coat doesn't have enough protection to make it worth running here, and Bunny Toria will have serious damage issues unless you're packing a high NP level, and maybe some hardcore Graylage. On top of all this, Tristan loves to purge your buffs. He has it on a standard skill and he'll spam the shit out of it. This and Harp of Healing can kill your big plays and force you to wait another cycle. My recommendation for this fight is to run a very aggressive frontline with an AoE main attacker. Run Binary Star Songstresses on them and fill your other slots with Bestia del Sol unless you have a team that absolutely requires something else. Play the first turn slow and reset if you get the crit or NP requirements. On turn 2, hit them hard and try to get both Tristan and Gareth's bars popped. If you can prevent Tristan from targeting your main attacker by using stuns, taunts, skill seals, or purge protection, go for it. Otherwise, you have to play the lottery. Turn 3, you deal with whatever conditions you need to break the new formation, and on turn 4, kill Tristan no matter what. If you can get Gareth at the same time, all the better. Otherwise, take her out during the next cycle. If Gareth is about to NP because she used her charge skill, you can also just reverse the order. You'll have to fend off multiple NPs during this process, and both Bedivere and Gawain would have entered by now. Your goal at this point is to kill all but one of the knights. If you can make that knight Bedivere, you're in good shape. Gawain is doable but much harder to control. Lancelot will be softened up, so you may as well finish him off if he isn't already dead. Don't go out of your way to save Bedivere, because what you're really after is to leave just one of them on the board. If you do this, their formation mechanic is just gone. you've beaten it. But at the same time, you're probably running on fumes too. Some of those NPs probably got through, and even if your first 3 servants are still alive, Gawain's first NP will likely fix that. Because of this, you'll want a robust holdout servant in your last slot. If you can run Ruler Jeanne, she's amazing for this. She can build Arch Chains into her NP, stun Gawain, and she can do all this while carrying Bestia del Sol, so you don't have to compromise your frontline. Depending on when you used your Mystic Code skills, they may be off cooldown by now, letting you play for even more time. Failing that, you might be able to finish things with a Chloe or even a Fujino, though you're on a much shorter timer with those too. With a strong start, a robust finisher, and a metric shitload of luck, you just might be able to win and claim those 5 summon tickets. Good luck. You're gonna need it.